We are, not Romans, but Ephesians chapter 4, excuse me. I've been teaching us a whole series. The outline is in your bulletin. You can follow along in the bulletin. You can take notes. I encourage you to take notes. I always say you remember 30% of what you hear. You remember about 60% of what you hear and write down. And you remember 90% of what you hear, write down, and do. That's why James tells us to be not only a hearer of the word, but a doer, lest we deceive our own selves. Now, he could have been a writer-downer. He could have said, don't be a hearer, but a writer-downer and a doer. But I find, at least for me, that when I write down stuff, it helps me recall it to my memory. And I'll tell you this. I used to go over to my parents' house when I was their pastor for 23 years, and I would see on... maybe they just put it up on the refrigerator to make me think they listened to me when I preached, but I would go over to my parents' house and I would see on the refrigerator the bulletin with the sermon that my mom or dad had taken notes on my sermon. And I would go over to other members of my church, and I'm not hinting here, but I would go to other members of my church and I would see the bulletin with the notes, and I would say, God is speaking through his word. They're listening, they're taking notes. And I do that on purpose. I also put that devotional questions in the bulletin. So you can as I'm preaching, you can look at those devotional questions and you can be making some application to your life, and you can look at them through the week, and you can read a verse or two, and you'll meditate on the sermon that way through the week. The Bible says, blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the way of sinners, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law does he meditate day and night. And so what I do in my preaching is I'm giving you a simple